harsher punishment for, as far as law enforcement.
Right.
There's a fine line there.
But, like, I mean, just as the way that the chair was leading, or like the background papers were leading, very heavily focused on you.
Good evening, Mr. Secretary General, esteemed Secretariat, advisors, and fellow delegates. It is with cautious optimism that the Islamic Republic of Iran ushers in this conference. In a world at the brink of drastic change, with shifting governments, sources of power, and technology, we are together given the opportunity to unite old principles with new opportunities, to uphold sound treaties in the face of new circumstance. At the forefront in the mind of the developing world is where to seek affordable sources of power. Nuclear technology, while having the potential for destruction, is an invaluable asset for nations trying to improve their standard of living. The benefits are immense. It simply cannot be repressed or ignored. We as a world must stand together to ensure powerful nations do not unlawfully deny others of this source of power, and ensure sensationalized fears do not deprive us of this remarkable renewable resource. In the international scope, there are two underlying detrimental trends concerning developing nations who pursue nuclear technology. First, developing nations are discriminated against when trying to obtain nuclear power, with the West often assuming that any advance towards such power is merely a conspiracy to create nuclear weapons. The United States is using the IAEA as a pawn in their game of foreign policy. Oftentimes, nations who disagree with the U.S. receive unwarranted scrutiny and even have their national sovereignty violated. A clear example of this being the U.S. violation of Iraqi sovereignty by concealing micro cameras during weapons inspections in the early 1990s. This is simply unacceptable for the world community to allow our international agencies to be abused. The audacity of these U.S. acts is only rivaled by the outrageous paralleling trend of discrimination towards Muslim countries. Iran, Egypt, and clearly Iraq are all prime examples of Islamic nations denied the right to peaceful nuclear technology. Unfounded accusations against these countries hurt both the credibility of the UN and all nations involved. Busting dependency on disappearing resources and increasing self-reliance of developing nations would benefit the world as a whole. The leap nuclear power would make to reduce dependency on rapidly depleting resources and to increase modernization is immense. To speak to the bleak side of this technology, however, Iran does not support the proliferation of weapons. Our nation does not have a nuclear weapons program, nor have we pursued one. While the same cannot be said for some of our more notorious neighbors, Iran is still the one repeatedly targeted over a program we do not possess. The UN and IAEA have noble intentions, but are barking up the same old tree time and time again. For the world to truly rest safe, the IAEA must inspect the facilities of all nations, regardless of their alliances and ideologies. We must also respect and honor each nation's sovereign right to possess peaceful nuclear technology, as prescribed by the NPT. Once a country has submitted to and passed inspections, and insists they have no weapons of mass destruction, we must put an end to incessant badgering. It is incumbent upon all nations, even those leaders of the free world, to heed the results of inspection regime which the UN has in place. The world cannot allow another invasion because the U.S. disregards IAEA reports. We must not let doomsday hysteria rape innocent nations of their sovereignty. We must also uphold other treaties honored previously in this body. Iran is greatly concerned that the Geneva Convention on Torture, meant to protect all people, is being circumvented by falsely constructed loopholes. While hundreds of prisoners fall hopeless in the U.S. level of suspicion, those very prisoners who are held to supposedly end terrorism are themselves being terrorized. The U.S.'s practice of extraordinary rendition is a classic example of ineffective ends, not justifying misguided means. The world cannot sit back idle while such egregious actions take place. This would not only abandon the victims of these modern witch hunts, but would also set a larger, more sinister precedent for the world that treaties are only subject to the whim of each nation involved. This is unacceptable. It is imperative we address this and do so now. The U.S. and their self-constructed axis of unilateralism must be stopped. As a body that works towards solving issues of religion, newly budding democracies around the world, and territorial disputes that have never been resolved, Iran would like to remind the committee that despite our vast differences, we are all working towards common goals. While clearly democracy in Asia cannot work if it is not tailored to specific geographic needs, democracy is still the ultimate aim. We must look beyond our desire for an image mirroring our own government and rejoice with others as they achieve their own version of our desired goal. When we discuss religious intolerance, we must keep in mind that countries with a strong moral center cannot be expected to set aside their faith in the interest of Western economics. We must also specifically keep in mind the Equality is a noble goal to strive towards. Equality of developing nations to develop. Equality between religions. Equality and responsibility to uphold treaties. Equality not based on economics, but rather in the idea of one nation, one vote. To ensure this, we must stand together as Islamic nations, as developing nations, to ensure that we collectively have our voice heard. We must not let rich foreign powers bully our morality or hold our tongues by the power of their purse. We must stand together. Only then can we say we have truly fought to preserve the integrity and purpose of the UN. In the name of Allah, let's strive for peace. Thank you.
Greetings, Mr. Secretary General, Secretariat, advisors, and revered delegates. In an ever-changing world, there seems to be a growing gap between the developing world and the developed. With economic globalization making the world smaller and smaller, it seems to be economically driving us farther and farther apart. As a nation on the brink of joining the developed world, the People's Republic of China stands on the bridge between the developing nations like Nigeria, Haiti, and Burkina Faso, and developed nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. Our efforts to eliminate poverty have been successful, and we stand before this esteemed committee with a hope, no, a vision for the future of our world. Through trade and trust, we can create an environment for even the most economically deprived nation to flourish. With a balance of responsibility between the two parties, countries like Uganda can work to create local, regional, and national support systems, making them lucrative for international investment. However, while outside economic stimulation can be vital to the development of developing nations, continued outside intervention, as manifested in the situation regarding the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, can make developing nations feel backed into a corner and helpless in alleviating the situation. While there is no rationalization for the development of an unwarranted nuclear weapons program, there is a concern within the People's Republic of China that such a drastic measure is only reminiscent of drastic times. In our search for diplomatic solutions, China looks forward to the continuation of the six-party talks, remaining fully cognizant of the fact that peace can only be obtained if we remain respectful, not condescending, firm, but not abrasive. Contrary to the belief of many Western nations present here today, the People's Republic of China feels that a regime change in North Korea would only further instability and reinforce a world concern that the sovereignty of many is continually trampled upon. In Asia especially, the creation of unwanted democracy is not only diplomatic, but totally insensitive to our cultural and historical values. As in any situation, respect of sovereignty and diplomacy is key. At the same time, in the spirit of working together, China looks forward to working with the international community to make advances in the creation of alternative energy sources. With the population estimated to rise to 1.5 billion people, we feel that innovations like the creation of the Three Gorge Dam are necessary to our progression, and actions like our continued participation in the Kyoto Protocol show our continued investment in the international community. The People's Republic of China, in an effort to be progressive in the development of the international community, hopes to be a beacon of inspiration to all of the developing world and the leader internationally in diplomatic solutions. Our socialist government model has helped us keep in mind the collective aspiration of our people to obtain a fully realized China. We rest assured that progress, good fortune, and international diplomatic authority awaits our great nation. Thank you.
Good girl. The Republic of Bulgaria welcomes you all, fellow delegates, to this conference. We all come here today representing countries with different policies, backgrounds, problems, and histories. But if we are to make any progress in facing the challenges before us, we must find a common ground and unite under a common cause. The UN exists so that we may have an international forum where we can work cooperatively with one another to solve worldwide problems, whether they are economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian. If we are to achieve this, we absolutely must unite. This task will require much from us, most importantly teamwork. When we consider peacekeeping operations, for example, they should be multilateral in nature. Solutions will be more favorable and beneficial to the world if they involve the whole international community. This goes for the situation in Iraq also. Although Bulgaria supports the resolution that was just passed by the Security Council regarding that issue, we worry about the U.S. taking action on its own against Iraq and against the decisions of the UN. We cannot unite if we work alone, and we cannot unite if we hold double standards. Bulgaria participates fully in the UN and is currently honored to have a temporary seat in the Security Council. Largely due to our great strides towards teamwork with our European neighbors, we hope to join NATO and the European Union in the near future. Find a common ground, unite. Nation building is a concept that spans nearly every committee. When approaching this task, we must keep our political agendas out of the picture. Bulgaria commends nations like China, who have made a commitment to helping economically struggling Afghanistan in their time of crisis, through assisting them in many multilateral recovery and reconstruction projects. In committees discussing public sector reform, famine interventions, and the Afghan recovery, look to those nations like Afghanistan, South Korea, or Bulgaria for a voice of first-hand experience and knowledge in the realm of severe economic problems and recoveries. Bulgaria has learned through continuous political and economic reforms since the fall of the Soviet Union that it takes perseverance and a focus on the future to solve problems. Too often in our committees, we pass soft resolutions or weak ones. Instead, fellow delegates, we must pass resolutions with teeth that tear into the problems and get results. So, when it comes to the obvious need for establishing the human rights violations in Myanmar, or an end to the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, which Bulgaria believes are no aid to the furthering of mankind, you can look to Bulgaria to create solutions that will deal with these problems head-on and take actions to get results. If we are to unite under a common cause, we must place logic, reason, and compromise above all else. Again, we must place logic, reason, and compromise above all else. We can't allow ourselves or our committees to descend to the realm of non-compromising policy debate, as can happen easily and often. The task ahead is daunting indeed, but we must persevere. Had the UN not compromised before, there might still be apartheid in South Africa, or we may have experienced another world war by now. We hold the very future of the world and the United Nations in our hands. If we work together, set aside our political agendas, and unite in the spirit of the UN Charter, we can surely make this a positive, effective, results-oriented conference. Thank you for your time.
The 2008 United States presidential race has left U.S. citizens and the international community questioning the future leadership of the United States of America. However, it does not matter who is elected. The essential U.S. policies set forth by George W. Bush and his administration will not change. A simple rotation of leaders will not alter our strong stance on security. It will not change our faith in democracy, and it will not affect our steadfast belief in the dignity of all people. The United States of America stands for legitimacy, free and fair elections, and transparency. Although most nations in Latin America fight to fulfill these democratic principles, nations such as Cuba and Venezuela are the thorns in the side of liberty and dignity. By ruling with an iron fist, these nations deny their people the freedom they crave and the fairness they deserve. The refusal of these dictatorships to recognize minority rights, hold free and fair elections, and thereby legitimize their regime strangles the dignity of their people. They defy the principle, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the very ideals the UN was built upon. The trembling democracy in Pakistan is more than unsettling to the United States. The martial law declared by Musharraf puts the democratic principles we stand for in jeopardy. And the possession of nuclear weapons by Pakistan only makes the situation more critical. The United States is committed to aiding Pakistan, and we congratulate them for freeing opposition leader Benazir Bhutto from house arrest. We urge them to continue down their path to democracy. It is imperative that the international community work together to bring Pakistan back to a democratic stability. Human dignity does not only come in the form of democratic rights and principles, but in upholding security and safety. The Islamic Republic of Iran blatantly disrespects the rule of law laid forth by Security Council resolutions 1696, 1737, and 1747. The fact is, by refusing to stop uranium enrichment, they defy the international community, and merely flashing the IAEA vague blueprints they have asked for time and time again does not change that. The United States urges the international community to place stronger sanctions on Iran and not to be distracted by the fanciful diction of Iran's public face. Until it stops uranium enrichment, there can be no other solution. The Security Council must cut off Iran in order to preserve the dignity of this institution and of the Iranian people. Though Iran is threatening international security, security in the 21st century goes beyond simple soldiers, nuclear weapons, and preventing terrorism. Security in this century relies on addressing threats to our vast environment. Climate change is rapidly affecting the world we live in, and unless the global community cooperates to lower our greenhouse gas emissions, there will be no political crises or AIDS epidemics to concern us. Americans have begun to redefine how we develop security, and we applaud the international community for beginning to do the same. Sexual violence, conflict commodities, genocide, judicial standards for terrorists. These issues all challenge the underlying ideal of human dignity. As we enter this weekend, the United States is ready to fight for the natural rights that all people should be born with: life, liberty, and opportunity. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Yet this international body lets dignity slip through our fingers. How can we turn a blind eye when Sudanese women are raped and killed daily? How can we call ourselves united when nations slaughter the rule of law and all that it represents? It is imperative that the United Nations uphold the dignity of world citizens, the dignity of all nations, and above all, the dignity of the world.
So I have the privilege of introducing several delegation speeches. The first one being, speech is Greg Ewing from India.
Mr. Secretary General, delegates, esteemed guests, it is with a heavy heart and many condolences to the families of victims that we condemn the recent terrorist attacks within India's commercial heart of Mumbai. India will take the strongest possible measures to secure that such terrorist attacks will never be repeated. We are determined to take whatever measures are necessary to ensure the safety and security of our citizens. Let it be known that there will be a cost if suitable measures are not taken by our neighbors to suppress the use of their territory for launching attacks on us. Taking words from our Prime Minister, we will curb the flow of funds to suspect organizations. We will restrict the entry of suspects into the country. We will go after these individuals and organizations and make sure that every perpetrator, organizer, and supporter of terror, whatever his affiliation or religion may be, pays a heavy price for these cowardly and horrific acts against our people. This is without hesitation that I say, at this moment, national security is above all other topics on India's agenda. Nevertheless, it is not India's way to set aside its democratic agenda of growth, however much terrorists may wish us to do. It is the ancient Indian concept of Vasudha Deva Kutumbakam, or the whole world is one family, that commits us to the ideals of the United Nations. In uncertain economic times, it is integral that we all work together to bring faith back to the international markets. Even though developing countries were not the cause of the economic downturn, it will push millions upon millions of people back into poverty. If we are to prevent a global setback and ensure that the Millennium Development Goals are achieved, we need to ensure that growth in developing countries is not affected. Likewise, handling the global food crisis and sustaining development will be specific aspects of the MDG that will increase global security. India will be a keen and willing participant in this process. Gandhi once said, constant development is the law of life. Delegates, our assembly must realize that the UN is in need of urgent development. Therefore, we must recognize the necessary expansion of the United Nations Security Council in both permanent and rotating categories of membership. It is imperative that the UN resembles the world of 2008, not 1945. India's recent nuclear suppliers group approval and clearance to start trading nuclear products for both civilian and military purposes clearly legitimizes our nuclear program when compared to such programs in Pakistan and North Korea. This legitimacy is just another sign of India's ascendancy. In earnest, India strongly urges the push for the implementation of its own Security Council seat, permanent Security Council seat. Delegates, the need for a strong, united global crisis, with a strong and united response to global crises from all hemispheres is long overdue. At this conference, we must give the world a clear signal of our resolve to take specific, coordinated action to handle current crises in a manner which restores confidence within this body. We need to ensure that the processes we set in motion at this conference safeguard and promote the welfare of our future generations. For if we fail the United Nations, we will fail succeeding generations, who have every right to expect a more enlightened legacy than is currently in sight. Mr. Secretary General, delegates, I thank you and good luck to all.
It is a widespread topic that definitely needs to be considered. I have stated in my earlier statement, Bulgaria does not have the financial means to donate money to these countries, these less fortunate nations that are dealing with famine. Bulgaria, though not completely stable, is not at a famine state. We need countries that can aid to do so in order to accomplish anything on this topic. Bulgaria is also hoping that the nations AGO will help educate the nations educate the nations with famine by teaching them to utilize the land that is presented to them. For example, they may educate them by teaching them how to build their economy in areas such as high-tech communications and tourism. We need to work together to think of a way to help the people as soon as possible. I will now yield questions. I'm not saying that to give up all your money or to give up nothing. I'm saying what you can donate to. And if you want to, and if you can, if the country can work out some deal that they can pay you back in the future, then yes. If that can happen, then sure. But if not, I think that if you can donate, you should. Any other questions for the delegate?
Realistic, it's not probable. It probably won't happen to the acceptance of either side. Therefore, I believe that we need to take steps to demilitarize the area, have India and Pakistan both take their own sides of the borders, so that we can have them working together on a common problem which will hopefully foster peace between them, and then work towards our votes so that we can side with the Kashmir people and come up with a gradual solution that will actually work and instill peace. I will yield the rest of my time to questions. I think both ideas are good to a point. We've talked about moderating the votes with UN peacekeeping troops. My only problem with that is what happens afterwards. What is our timetable with that going to be? If we put them in simply for the day of the vote or for the weeks ahead of time to militarize the area and then we pull them out, then we have problems with setting up whatever the Kashmir people choose. Stronger language in the actual resolution, as we've suggested, demands perhaps reiterating on our past resolutions and the disapproval of the body that these things have not been carried out, and our desires to see the problems solved in Kashmir will create more of a positive force to getting it done rather than just simply stating it. We put more oomph behind it, as it were. We can hopefully convince them.
Distribution problems in countries. I mean, there is enough food for everyone in the world. It's just a problem of getting it there to the people in need. And like China said, Vietnam would agree that other alternate kinds of food sources would help in this, like if they were able to grow in places with droughts or whatnot. And Vietnam would not oppose genetic engineered things as long as there wasn't a health standard or a health issue going on with that. As far as overpopulation goes, Vietnam practices family planning and has a national institution for family planning. And although it has helped reduce our population slightly, it's not, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, we haven't met all of our goals for population, and I think Vietnam thinks that it's more of a national issue rather than the full international kind of thing. And as far as infrastructure goes, the inspection team that we had talked about in the working paper thing outside, it could help if we could find a way to get them into countries who need it most. Like Vietnam is a rural area, and that's part of why we've had 6 major famines in the past. So it's just kind of finding a way to get food out there and to find a way to get that food there. I answered some questions.
Question?
Yes.
Do you believe that, in fact, this amendment is good for the international community?
Yes, I believe that, well, in general, it's good for the Palestinian people, and just so that no more reactions are posed on the civilians, but on the terrorist organizations that actually committed them. Well, the thing is that that's what this amendment is trying to do. It's trying to clarify what this operative was saying here, and basically Canada didn't really understand instead of what it was trying to get at. But the second half, we thought that it was trying to prevent military actions against, reactions. So we changed it so it's more clear, and so it accomplishes something, and it makes the resolution better. The consequences one was kind of iffy, and it was confusing. So this amendment helps it, and I don't think it changes the purpose of the amendment operative at all.
We absolutely need 11 to get the job done because many of the kind of repeat themselves afterwards. There's no rule that says we need 11 I think that'll take way too long. Right, but they're not going to make a big deal out of that.
They're changing a couple of words that share about government violations and stuff so that more countries, including China and some other Asian countries, and so we'll be more comfortable with the first clause in there. And as of right now, this resolution is good to Vietnam, Canada, same time, and yeah, I'll go to questions.
Are there any questions from the delegate at this time?
They have the ability to compete fairly with the Western nations that employ subsidization techniques without having to work against the tremendous imbalance that is already in place. Your question.
Questions from the delegate.
And the U.S. and its annual bailouts. The public thinks that there is basically no difference between agricultural annual bailouts and subsidization because they're both funding farmers to either put them away from losing part of their economy, and the other one is to basically do the same exact thing because, well, they're giving them the money to the farmers to produce more agriculture.
Yeah. We're not going to get out till 12. That's not surprising. Yeah. But Emily's already out, and I need to talk to
I don't want to be in the video. It's a problem.
What are you doing? However, through discussions with the Human Rights Committee, we started to
violate more human rights. So the Republic of Korea believes this resolution will be very effective with a shorter time. I now yield my time to request.
Questions for the delegate. Vietnam, Coquinty, right?
Would the Republic of Korea be opposed to specifying in this resolution that the election commission has already been created by the UN to avoid future conflicts with that?
Well, the election committee part comes in after the 2 years.
Bulgaria, you are recognized to speak in favor of this amendment.
I think that if we allow for 2 years to implement and try to actually fix their human rights violations, that we will only prolong the people in Myanmar not having their basic human rights to vote and have their voice. I think that 2 years would be way too long. They've had plenty of time, and we need to minimize it to at least 1 year.
Sorry.
What do you want to say
It's a very tough one. I haven't had a chance to read the new.
You're right.
We can't.
Is this the end?
Veto.
No,
don't toss around your veto like it's some play thing.
Thank you. Yes, veto is not.
Is this supposed to be 2?
I don't know if I have one.
Yeah, I thought it was 2.
But if I have one,
yeah,
it's
not going to cost us.
There's obviously still a lot of concerns surrounding this resolution, particularly around wording or around the fact that it's vague or not specific enough. And I'd like to say this, hopefully to clear it up. With a topic such as this, it is very difficult to be extremely specific because we're not dealing with one situation. So it's going to be broad by nature, and we're not trying to create any one plan for development because that needs to be determined on a case-by-case basis per country. Further, I believe Operative 7 has now been fixed to, I think it's a lot more clear now, although some countries still aren't in favor of it. I think it clears up the problem well. And also 6C is being changed. I know it sounds like consequences won't be enacted except in extreme situations, but that is not what we mean. We mean that aid will not be pulled except in extreme situations, and that will then be determined by the United Nations because people were asking for who is going to do that. People have been asking for examples of misuse of aid, and again, we can't really go into that too much in this resolution because we just get bogged down by examples of misuse of aid and then who determines what's a misuse. So I think we can just leave it the way it is with that. Questions? Any questions for the delegate?
As an amendment in itself and a secondary amendment, because what it's being added to completely changes operative number 3, and we would want to see it get voted down because of that. So what we need to, and it doesn't really add to operative 3, so I think it would be a lot more beneficial
funding that we would give to anything like this.